You have to ask the question. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak?
I just want to say one thing, please. How about those United States SEALs?
I just want to say to Mr. McGill and to the fire commissioners, I know the ability within the company is there to put things online. Now may be the time for all future budgets and information to be put on a website that people in the community can see it. Then if they see something, they may question and attend the meetings and things like that. Thank you. Just a suggestion.
Anyone else like to speak?
There will be a law that will require that. I think
Yeah, I think we're going to have to put everything.
Everything.
That's practice.
One of the
website.
circumstances with the district, of course, we have the surplus, is that would be an expenditure that wasn't budgeted. But
Right.
and you have to create the website and all that business. But
Right.
if it has to be done, it has to be done.
Yeah, everything's going to have to go on the website.
That's
Tom?
fine.
Yeah, friend, Mayor, I don't know if it's appropriate to ask a question of someone who's spoken to the gentleman from Bradley Beach.
Sure. Is he still here?
He's still in the back?
Yeah.
One of our council people would like to ask you a question, if that's okay.
You have a right to remain silent.
If you agree,
I'll listen to it. I'm not the lawyer. I will try to answer it. Like I said earlier, I have nothing to hide. And you know my name is Joe.
Yeah, and I think this is, apropos of the discussion. It's all volunteer. You have just a fire company. You don't have a commission.
No.
Now, you mentioned...
Municipal run, or say borough run.
You mentioned that, that some of your stuff might have been out of date or failed. Is that because the volunteers are, overwhelmed or stretched too far to keep up with the, necessarily the regulations or testing of the equipment and things like that?
It comes down to dollars.
Dollars. So it's only a question of money.
It's dollars. Because, to give you an example, I told you in 2008, OSHA came in to Bradley Beach on a complaint. They took a look at our Han pumper that we used to ride out with 4 firemen on it. Since we did not have that pumper from birth, like the aerial truck, like the rescue truck, even though the rescue truck, like I said, is a manual choke, stick, no seat belts, open cab.
Old school, I got it.
Okay? We can only now have 2 firefighters in there.
Right, because you don't have everybody strapped in and all that stuff. I got
That's
you.
correct.
Right.
If it's like our ladder truck, which we have from birth, that's fine.
Grandfathered in, as it were. All right. Thank you. You answered my question. Thanks.
Okay, thank you very much. Any other questions, or before I read this resolution, just note. Pardon? Oh, I'm sorry. Could I have a motion to close the floor to the public?
Make that motion.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolution number 74, 2011, dissolving the Spring Lake Heights Fire District 1. When we vote on this, a yes vote dissolves and a no vote, no dissolution, just so everybody is clear on that. May I have a motion, please, on resolution number 74, 2011?
Second.
Any discussion?
Yeah, Fran. I'm not sure how the rest of the council feels, but, in my thinking, since the commission was started by a voter referendum, I would suggest that we have a referendum on this rather than the council vote on it.
The statute doesn't call for that. The referendum, when you got the petition for, salary and wage ordinance, that statute called for it to go to referendum. The statute calls for a hearing and then a vote.
I understand the hearing. Mr. Lane, is that possible? Or?
Mr. Lane has already put in writing that it's plausible.
That's what I remember.
The problem is it's not binding, so it's you can get the sense of what people think, but it's not a binding. The other one is binding. When you get the petition and you put it on that one was binding. If win means you have a fire district. Just the sense of the public would be just would be like an opinion poll. Wouldn't be binding. It would be non-binding.
Tom, I think everybody in this room that follows the newspapers knows that I'm a huge supporter of referendum and initiative. Not on this issue. I don't support a referendum on this issue, and the reason being is that I think that this is too sensitive an issue. It divides the community, and I think a referendum would do more harm than good.
Any other discussion? Okay.
I have a discussion.
Okay, go
I'd like
ahead.
to make a motion that we do permit it. I know that the Robert's Rules normally does not permit us to make statements when casting our votes, but I'd like to set aside that rule and permit us to make comments prior to casting our votes.
Is that
I'd like to
legal?
make a motion.
I'll second that.
In discussion, you can.
No, he's talking about in the vote. Once a vote starts, you're not supposed to discuss, it's just a vote.
If you want to amend, if you want to amend
That's fine.
if you want a motion to amend, make a motion to amend.
That's my
Okay,
motion.
fine.
I'll second it.
So you'd like to make a statement
Prior to
along
casting.
with your vote?
And
Can I have a motion then?
the roll call on the motion. is
Roll
second.
call on that
There's
motion.
a lot of
please.
statements in between the
Yeah,
votes.
yeah.
Mr. Brennan?
Yes.
Ms. Cynthia?
Yes.
Mr. Dibber?
Yes.
Mrs. King?
Yes.
Mr. Mechanico?
Yes.
Mr. Borback?
Yes.
Okay, resolution number 74, 2011, as amended, well, the resolution is amended. Just the resolution. May I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Brennan?
You know, I want to welcome everybody here and thank everybody for coming out. Not only this week, but the prior week. I want to thank everybody who has taken the time to speak to me privately. I've heard from a lot of people. I've heard from a lot of people on both sides of the issue. I want to first discount some of the arguments that are not persuasive to me. And those arguments are the February election. I am not persuaded that a February election is a valid way to go about approving an expenditure of $400,000 in Borough of Spring Lake Heights. I think that, and I agree with Mr. McGill that it's statutory and it needs to be changed. I also am concerned about the confusion that's been created between the district and the company. I think that the company, I know that the company's been around for 100 years, or since 1927, 1928. The district has not been, so I'm not persuaded that the company is going to go anywhere if the district is dissolved. So I'm not persuaded. While I am, the heartfelt expressions of those who got up to the mic and spoke with passion about serving the community by way of their firefighter service. It hits me very strongly. I do not begrudge anybody, and I challenge everybody who has the time to come out and volunteer. But I am not persuaded by those heartfelt statements. I was elected as a fiscal conservative because I am a fiscal conservative. My wife will tell you that I'm cheap. I'm particularly cheap.
She told us too.
I'm particularly cheap with public funds. And so I've approached this issue strictly as the way I see it. And I think Mr. Merriman did a nice job of summing up the difference between the district and the borough. It comes down to who ultimately is going to fashion the budget and who ultimately is going to make the determination of the priorities for fire safety protection services for the borough of Spring Lake Heights. I'm also not persuaded, and that's basically what it comes down to. It comes down to whether or not the council is going to do that job or whether or not fire commissioners will do that job. I'm also not persuaded by the arguments that somehow this council or any future council is going to shortchange the residents of the borough of Spring Lake Heights with respect to fire safety. We have a public safety budget, which we take very seriously. It's fully funded. We provide for public safety, and we do so adequately, in my opinion. I think I am somewhat, I do find somewhat appealing the argument that there's professional expertise within the fire commission with respect to what's needed, and I think that ultimately attracts me to the position of not dissolving the commission, but that's just one factor that I'm balancing back and forth. I have been back and forth on this issue in my mind over the past several weeks. Initially, as a fiscal conservative, I had made representations to Mr. Lewis that I was in favor of dissolving the fire district because I felt, based upon my information of the amount of the budget, $420,000, that was an excessive amount to be spent for fire safety services in the borough of Spring Lake Heights, based upon what it was I've seen with our own budget with respect to expenditures in our own budget. I can tell you that after last Monday night, after hearing from Mr. Rockhill, my mind was changed, and I was in favor of not dissolving the district. And the reason being is the argument about the $150 a year. In the scheme of things, it's not a huge amount of money. And that's where I was up until I received the documents that came on Saturday morning, which revealed the fact that there was this, between the fire company with $100,000 in cash savings and the fire district with about $330,000 in cash accounts. That upset me, and the reason why it upset me was because as a councilman for the past 2 years, and this is my third and final year, I have seen what we've had to go through as a council for purposes of trying to get our community through a very tough economic times, with respect to trying to root out whatever spending we possibly could. We have imposed freezes on our workers who have not had raises in years. We've had petitions that have been circulated for even greater freezes. We've been arguing, we've consumed the budget surplus. This council is now prepared to pass a budget with a surplus of only $70,000 for $70,000 for a budget of over $5 million, and I'm not going to vote for that because I think it's reckless. We have been arguing up here passionately about spending money and trying every way to not spend money so that we can keep the tax rate down for the folks out there who are imploring us to do so. So to find that there was this kind of cash sitting around that had been accumulated over the course of years was very, very disconcerting to me, and I was prepared to vote to dissolve the district. And I went to Walk my neighbor across the street, and I told him that there was a problem, and I told him that he had better have a good explanation, because the fact that the past meeting, not having the right people here really hurt the district by way of public relations in the press. And the newspaper article before that, not having the right answers will really hurt by way of public relations. Now, it comes down to the explanations that we've got tonight. For me, this is just for me. That's why I asked a lot of questions. And what it comes down to is apparently there's about $200,000. And you know what, I don't have a problem with the fire company having $100,000 in cash. I like the fact that the fire company has $100,000 in cash. That's about the right amount for me that the fire company should have sitting around in cash. The district having that $330,000, I can accept about $130,000 of that is earmarked for legitimate purposes. An extra $200,000, I don't necessarily accept that it was as a result of a mistake by an auditor, because it was there on the books and was carried on the books over the course of years. I do believe, however, that the district and the Board of Commissioners will in fact give that money back to the taxpayers. I know that we will give the money back to the taxpayers. If we were to dissolve the district by this vote, this council, there's no question in my mind, will give that money back to the taxpayers. I also think that from time to time that the fire district overbuys their equipment. What I mean by that is what you determine to purchase is in excess of what your reasonable needs are. But they're your needs, the needs that you determined. And the premium you pay for that equipment comes from the taxpayers. You have to be mindful of that. But I'm not voting to dissolve this district. And the reason why I'm not voting to dissolve this district is because ultimately I believe that 30 people who are in the department that have a relationship with the commissioners are doing it out of an avocation that is heartfelt in service to this community. And the monies that could be saved, and I think it's about 50 to 70,000, which is what Mr. Lane said, maybe even 80,000. That translates into maybe $25 a year average savings for the people. And to displace a family, when the young people use the word family, over $25 a year per taxpayer, I'm just not prepared to do it. I apologize to Mr. Lewis, because I committed to him that I would, but my vote is no.
Ms. Cynthia?
Yes.
Mr. Diver?
I just have a couple of statements I would make. I agree with my colleague, Mr. Brennan, on some of the points he raised. However, where I would differ, I guess, is in this issue coming up over the last several years. I think there's been plenty of time for full disclosure. And I'm sorry that it had to take this sort of an event to bring it about. It has come about. I think the good news is it's not that anything untoward has happened. As you always hear these rumors through the years. That hasn't happened. And I would remind everybody that we live in a good and decent town with good and decent people. All of you in this room are good and decent people. We may differ from time to time, but we always have the best interests of Spring Lake Heights at heart. And I vote yes to dissolve the district.
Ms. King?
I have researched this for quite a while. As Mr. Diver said, this is not an issue for me that is something new. This issue has been an agonizing one for a couple of years. And when I sat in the audience a few years back, and it was voted down for the purchase of a fire truck, and the company went and got it anyway, really disturbed me. And I didn't feel that that was really a just thing to do when the public had spoken. I also feel that it is a shame that we had to come to this point to get all these stacks of papers, and that my fellow councilwoman here, Ms. Cynthia, had asked several times for documentation and was refused. And I have heard from some members in the audience, Mr. Miller for one, Mr. Lewis for another, Mr. Schuler, and several others, who have said, you know, why won't they produce what we ask for? I think it has come to the time, and I really feel bad because I know where Rocky was coming from last week. He and I have been in town, as he said, for 67 years. And I don't really like to do something that I feel is going to be possibly a cause for people to be offended. But I think that 23 years of the reign of the fire district has got to come to an end. And so I vote yes.
Mr. Mechanico?
Yes. Well, this is very difficult. Many in this room are my friends. And the firemen are great. I have nothing but praise for them, admiration. Very difficult vote for me. But also I have relatives on the department. So you could take it one or two ways. Just taking the easy way out, because I will be abstaining my vote. I abstain.
You abstain?
Mr. Warback?
Well, it certainly is a difficult decision. But I think a lot of points have been brought up, so I won't reiterate them. I myself have been, I guess, tortured by this vote, frankly. I do see a lot of the value in the softer assets, mainly the folks in the fire department. I realize the fire department and the fire commission are two different entities, but after listening to the gentleman from Bradley Beach, it appears that the commission does provide a service. It looks like it provides mentoring and guidance. I don't know about their bookkeeping. That is very troublesome. And I would hope that next year when the fire budget comes up for a vote, that if it's $400,000, people turn it down. If it's closer to 300 or less, then maybe it's acceptable. But I think, you know, I don't even appreciate this process. I think this is a rather condensed process, but I don't think there's support for extending it. So that said, I'm going to vote against dissolving the district because I think there is a lot of value. I would hope that they're more transparent in the future, and frankly, the budget.
Madam Mayor, the resolution 74, 2011, dissolving the Spring Lake Heights Fire District Number 1 passes with 3 ayes, 2 noes, and 1 abstention.
An abstention is a yes vote, right?
Goes with the majority.
It goes with the majority. It's a yes vote. May I have a motion to adjourn, please?
I'll make that motion.
All in
Second.
favor?
Aye.